Hey guys, welcome to the money mindsets portion of this money masterclass. I am so excited to dive into this subject because it's so important to really understanding your relationship with money and how that affects the way that you manage it, not only for today, but for your future and the way you're going to teach your family and your future children and the generations that come after you. I know it sounds like I'm being way overboard here, but you guys, the way that you think about money, the way that you frame your perspective of money and also your experiences of it in the past are so important to how you feel about it today. And not only how you feel about it, but also how you manage it on a day-to-day, month-by-month, year-by-year basis. And so I hope you guys have your coffee, your notebook, your pen, your notes app, whatever it is that you choose to use. And we are going to dive in to money mindsets. Let's go. Okay, so as I said, everything begins with the mind. So whether you have a fitness goal, like you're trying to lose weight, whether you are trying to train yourself to run a marathon, or even if it's a personal relationship goal, like you are trying to muster up the courage to ask that special someone out on a date, whatever it is that you are trying to do, ultimately the starting point begins with your mind. So what does that mean for your money? What we teach our personal finance coaching clients at Paper and Coin is that you have to make a decision. And I know that sounds so basic, but making a decision doesn't necessarily mean saying something like, I want to pay off my debt. Okay, sure, that's great. But why do you want to pay off your debt? And that's the critical component here to point number one of making a decision, is that you have to understand why you are making this decision and what is motivating that decision. So what we would ask our clients is, why do you want to pay off your debt? And if they said, I feel constrained by it, I hate having to constantly pay back my credit card bill when I'd rather spend that money on something more fun, or the student loan is preventing me from really saving up for that home that I want to buy one day. Those are some excellent reasons as to why you would pay off debt. Now, obviously, you never need a reason why to pay off debt, and we're going to dive into all of that. But it's really important to have a solid grasp of what is motivating the decision. And so the reason we say this is so that you can be focused, right? That you have made a decision to do X, Y, and Z. And now that decision leads us to point two, which is to act or move on that decision. So again, number one is to make the decision, and being decisive has a sense of firmness and solid foundation to it rather than just saying, I'd like to be better at money. It's just way too vague. And so beginning with the mind is that you should make a decision towards that financial goal that you are working towards and have a solid motivation behind that decision. Then, as I said, you have to then move on that decision. And moving on that decision is also something that has to be specific. So going back to our example about saying, I want to pay off my debt, we would then ask you, why do you want to pay down that debt? And then you would say, your reason as to why. And then we would say, well, how do you plan on doing that? And so a lot of people will say like, I'm just going to put money towards my credit card balance, or I'm just going to throw a little bit extra at my student loan. Well, then I would say, how much extra? Where is that money coming from? Have you planned and budgeted for that money? Is there a line item within your budget that annotates which debt and how much is going towards each of those debts? How much is going towards your credit card balance? How much is going towards your line of credit? How much is going towards your student loan? There's so many things that are involved in acting and moving on that decision. But what I will say is congratulations to you, By simply purchasing and going through this course, you're already well on your way to making those goals a reality. So if your goal is to pay off your student loan, or start saving for your condo, or start saving for that dream trip that you'd like to take, whatever it is that your goal is, by simply making the decision to even get this course, you are well on your way. And this is going to be that tool that's going to help you act or move on that decision in a strategic, step-by-step way. So congratulations, you guys are already well on your way, and I'm so excited for what this is going to look like on the other end for you. So make sure you take down these points and really think about this as we move forward into this module. As you're thinking about your own financial goals, working through this money masterclass, I want you to decide what you want to get out of this guided experience. Just like I said, it all begins with the mind. So I want you to grab your pen and paper or your notes app or whatever you have on hand and write down what you want to get out of this. Do you want to pay off your student loan? Do you want to get a handle on that credit card balance? Do you want to figure out a plan to save for your first home? Do you want to figure out a way to be able to afford all the things that come with maybe having a baby? Whatever goal it is that you have in mind, I want you to take a moment now to take emotional and mental inventory of where you're at. Does money scare you? Do you get overwhelmed by money? Do you feel like you just want to stick your head in the sand and never look at your bank account? Because I'll be honest, I've definitely been there myself, but it's really important for you to take a moment before you dive into the numbers, before you learn about saving and investing and all those amazing things that we're going to get to in this money masterclass. But decide that you no longer want to feel overwhelmed when you look at your bank account. Decide that you finally want to take control of your money. Decide that you want to finally slay that student loan within the year, within 12 months, or within 6 months, whatever that looks like for you. So this is an opportunity for you to really sit down with your thoughts and really think about where you want to go from this experience. So now that you've had a chance to really dive into your intentions for this course and writing out the decisions that you are going to make regarding your finances and the act that you are going to do to make those decisions a reality. So like I said, you've already got this course, you're already well on your way. And so congratulations for that. Now, let's dive into some more of the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts of what it means to actually act on that decision. Here are the 7 non-negotiables for financial success that we teach on here at Paper and Coin, as well as with our personal finance coaching clients. The first is to pay attention. This is so important. It's why we put it right at the very top, because as we mentioned in the first video, so much of what you do with your money starts with the mind. And if you are feeling overwhelmed, you feel like money is just complicated, you just don't want to deal with it, you would be surprised at how many people simply stick their head in the sand, avoid looking at their bank account, avoid looking at what that interest charge is on the student loan, avoid looking at how much they're paying in credit card fees every month or every year, and they just don't pay attention. So the number one point of non-negotiable for financial success is that you have to pay attention. Number 2 is that you have to be able to budget like a boss. What that means, we're going to dive into this in more detail, I promise, is that if a multi-million-dollar corporation like Amazon or Facebook has budgets, not only do they have an overall budget, they have budgets for every division and department. And that is something that a lot of companies do. Then why do you think that you shouldn't have a budget, or that you don't need a budget just because you make maybe $50,000 a year? The truth of the matter is that the more money you make, the more you actually need a budget. And in order to make more money, you need to be able to practice budgeting while you don't have as much money. It seems simple, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't have a budget. And so we're going to dive into all of these points in more detail. Number 3 is to live below your means. You might have heard the saying of living within your means, but at Paper and Coin, we teach you to live below your means, and we will talk about more of that in detail as we go along. Point number 4 is to avoid debt like the plague. You guys, I cannot state this more, that debt is the dumbest thing you can have for your personal finances. So avoid it. Number 1, get rid of it, and then avoid it for the rest of your life as if it's a plague. Point number 5 is to save like you mean it. The reason we say it like this is because so many people treat savings like a passive thing. Like, okay, you know what? Sure, just every month I'll put $20 aside and hopefully it'll start to stack up. And that's true. Anything you do towards savings is a good thing, whether you're, having it automatically withdrawn from your paycheck and just put aside without even looking at it. That's a great strategy as well. But saving with intention is just so much more meaningful because you have a purpose behind that savings. So again, save like you mean it. We're going to dive into that in more detail as well. Point number 6 is to invest, and invest again. Can we be any more clear about how much we want you to invest? Investing is so important for building wealth for your future. Simply having a job and a salary, honestly, is just unfortunately not enough anymore. Even if you're making 6 figures or multiple 6 figures as a family, it's not enough for you to just have a job and have a salary in order to build wealth for the long term. You have to find sound investments to seed your money into and watch your money compound and grow over time. We're going to dive into investing in 2 entire modules within this Money Masterclass. So be on the lookout for that as we move through the course. And the last point, you guys, is do not compare yourself. We're going to dive into this in so much more detail as we move along, but don't compare yourself. You are on your own journey. Let's dive into each of these 7 non-negotiables as we move through. Point number 1 is to pay attention. You can't fix something that you're unaware of. You are the one that has to pay attention to what's going on to your money, not the bank, not your parents, not your spouse, not your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your friends. It's you. It's your money, and it's up to you to pay attention to it. So that's why this is the first thing that we've put on our non-negotiables list. One of the worst things you can do is to ignore your money. So many people avoid looking at these things, as I mentioned before. Your student debt, what the interest rate is on your credit card, how much monthly charges you're getting on your line of credit, or any penalties you might have faced, what your bank fees are. So many people like to ignore these things simply out of fear. They'd rather ignore it and hope that things will just magically fix themselves. But newsflash, you guys, that's not how the world works. So I'm here to give you a wake-up call. You have to pay attention. You are going to be the one that's going to learn how to handle your money in this Money Masterclass, and you are going to be the one to apply it to your life. And guess what? You can do it. Thankfully, like I said, if you're watching this, you've already acknowledged that there's a problem, right? That you either don't understand money, you feel overwhelmed by it, you don't understand certain concepts, or honestly, that you don't really care about money that much. And so by being here, you're already acknowledging that and you're already making a step to fixing it. Now, as you pay attention, you'll progress through your personal finance journey. You'll build those insights. You'll start to build those habits and principles that will actually require you to pay even more attention. So unfortunately, if you felt like, okay, great, I'll just do this course and I'll be better and I can just move on with my life and I won't ever have to look at it again, that's unfortunately not the case. Because think about it this way. If you went on a journey to lose weight, you lost 50 pounds. And obviously, in order to lose those 50 pounds, you had to be really intentional about what you ate. You had to make sure that you had enough protein. You had to make sure you had enough vegetables and fiber and greens and nutrients and all those things, rather than, reaching for the French fries or the ice cream that has no nutritional value and is totally junk, right? We all love it, but that's the case. Now, in order to lose that 50 pounds, you have to be really intentional. However, what most fitness gurus will tell you is that in order to keep that 50 pounds off and not revert back into old negative habits, you have to continue to stay vigilant and intentional about what you're putting into your body, how often you're exercising, what kind of exercises you're doing. In fact, you have to pay so much attention that you have to see, is your body actually plateauing and getting used to some of the exercises you've already done? And in that case, you would switch things up. The same thing goes for your money, you guys. Just because you've taken this course doesn't mean you can become complacent after. You have to continue to monitor. Where is your money going? Is this the best investment strategy for you? Are you saving with enough intention, enough aggressiveness to get to your goals faster? So that's the thing. Once you start paying attention, you actually will start to feel like it gets easier over time. It's not going to feel as overwhelming as it is possibly right now. And so don't get intimidated when I say that you have to keep paying attention, because truly, as you build the muscle of budgeting, as you build the muscle of saving and investing and paying your debt off aggressively, this will start to get easier and easier for you. So, number one is to pay attention. Start paying attention and ask yourself questions like, where is my money going? How much do I actually owe? Whether that's in your credit card, in your student line of credit, your government student loan, your personal loans that you might have taken out. What is the total accumulative value of what you actually owe? And part of that is also knowing how much is the interest rate on all of these accounts. How much are the annual fees that I'm paying? What is the dollar value of those interest charges that I'm paying on all my cumulative debts? How much do you have in savings? Do you have a high interest savings account? Do you have an investment account like an RRSP or a tax-free savings account? How much is in all of those accounts? And what are those accounts for? If you have 3 savings accounts open, what are each of those savings accounts for? Is one for a trip and one for your potential new condo that you want to buy? Or is that smaller savings account for that handbag that you've been saving for? You have to know what is the purpose of all of these different accounts. And part of paying attention is understanding what is going on and having a really solid lay of the land. And so the reason we've included this as our number one financial success component is that those who pay attention are the ones who win with money. So as you progress through your financial journey, like I said, you'll build the habits and paying attention will begin to feel a lot easier. I promise you. I also want to zero in on the very last or the 7th non-negotiable for financial success, which is don't compare yourself. The reason we're skipping over parts 2 to 6, which is budget like a boss, live below your means, avoid debt like the plague, save like you mean it, and invest again, is because we're actually going to be really doubling down on those topics as we move through this course. But when it comes to your money mindset specifically, It's so important for you to put your blinders on and stay focused on what you are trying to accomplish with your goals in your money. Remember, you're on your own journey. And so as you're embarking on that journey, it's so important to remain focused. Remember, we talked about defining what you want to get out of this experience in the last section. You are the one that's going to actually be the one to act on the decision that you've made. And so I know that this gets very difficult, you guys. I know it seems very simplistic on the screen to say, don't compare yourself. But the truth of the matter is, this is something that everybody struggles with, whether you are, broke and just living paycheck to paycheck, or you're Beyonce. Let's be real. I'm sure Beyonce struggles with comparing herself as well. The reason this is so important when it comes to your money is that by looking at what everyone else around you, whether that's your immediate friends and family, and let's be honest, the biggest culprit of this is social media and just general media. By comparing yourself to where other people are at along their own unique journeys, you might start to feel like you are not moving fast enough, or maybe you're not on the right track, or maybe that what you have is not good enough. And this is something that you are going to struggle with throughout your journey with money. And so as you embark on this journey now, it's so important to really build the habit of keeping those blinders on and staying focused and staying in your lane and staying true to your plan, because it's not going to get easier, you guys. I'm sure, like I said, Beyonce's looking at someone else's yacht at the south of France and saying, oh, I want to get that yacht. And so it sounds silly, but as you guys are going through this masterclass and going through and building your own plan, I want you to really focus on your blueprint. If your goal is to lose weight, then looking at bikini models that are already skinny doesn't help, right? But if you are looking at someone who has done it and been there and done that, then that might encourage you. So I would encourage you that as you're in this journey, find people that you can resonate with, that have been on this journey and can really attest to the work that you're putting in, rather than looking at someone that is just totally out of reach and cannot relate to where you're at. So like I said, as you are in this journey, whether that's paying off debt, learning how to invest, saving for a home, find the support that you can where you can find it, but also understand those triggers that are maybe thwarting your journey and thwarting your motivation and making you feel like, screw it, this is taking too long, or whatever your excuse is. Put the blinders on and do not compare yourself, because you are on your own journey. In this portion of the Money Mindsets module, we're going to dive into how the past, present, and future has affected the way that you think about, view, and manage money. Because the truth is, it's not explicitly obvious, but your past really does affect how you manage money and think about money today. And also, if you don't tackle it in a productive and healthy manner, it can very well affect how you manage and think about money in the future. As you go through this portion of the course, I want you to ask yourself some really key questions that are really going to dive into how your past has affected your experience of money today, and how, if you don't handle it now, how it could affect your future as well. How did your parents talk about or handle money? Did you worry about money as a child? Did you feel like there was never enough money in your household? Did you feel like you had to actually earn your money through chores or a part-time job? And what did that teach or instill in you? Or were you given money just as you needed it and as you asked for it? How do you think that you might have been affected by your past as you view money today? All of these questions are available on this portion's worksheet that you can go through and really sit down with those thoughts. Really think back to what it was like growing up for you. Were you always told, we can't afford that? Or you think money grows on trees? You think I'm made out of money? These are all things that, let's be honest, I heard growing up as well. And it really does affect your present and your future. And so as you're going through this course and you're building new healthy financial habits and understanding money in a deeper way, it's also important to understand why your mindset has been shaped the way it has today. So take some time to go through those questions in the worksheet and really sit with those answers and dwell on them and let that sink in as you work through the rest of this course. The first aspect of dealing with our past when it comes to money is to acknowledge money wounds. You may be carrying around money wounds from earlier in your life, which is why answering those questions is so important, and learning about, how did your parents talk about money? Did you always feel like there was lack or scarcity in your household? According to Ken Honda, he's the author of a book called Happy Money, The Japanese Art of Making Peace with Your Money. You may be actually carrying around money wounds from earlier in life. Maybe you were denied, taking those ballet lessons that you wanted, that maybe people in your class, in your school were doing, or you had soccer lessons you wanted to take, but your parents couldn't afford it. Specifically here in Canada, I know that hockey is something that is actually very expensive to put your kids into, and that can really affect children who maybe want to participate in the sport, but they come from lower income households and it's just out of reach for their parents to put them into hockey. And so I know that this can definitely be something that affects kids as they grow up. And so that could be a money wound that some children are carrying around with them even now and could manifest itself in different ways as they grow up. Or maybe growing up, your parents couldn't buy you that latest video game, or, the clothes that you wanted for back to school. I know that was something for me. Or, as you looked around at the kids in your school or in your neighborhood, they might have had certain things or experiences that you didn't get to have due to just whatever your parents' income levels or financial status was. Though it's not your parents' fault in any way that they weren't able to provide those things for you, we can still acknowledge that the hurt is there, that feeling of lack might have been there for us as children. And so it's not productive to deny those things and deny that those feelings were there as we were growing up, but it is productive to acknowledge them. It's productive to think about them as you were going through those previous questions through the worksheet as to some of the things that might have affected you, whether it was conscious or unconscious. So the portion of this module is really acknowledging those early experiences with money that might have negatively affected us, and those things that we might have inherited as a child that we didn't even realize. The thing is, though, our early experiences also affect what we're capable of. So whether you were able to actually feel encouraged with your money, like your parents encouraged you to start a bake sale or that lemonade stand or that small business growing up, that can also really encourage and cultivate some of the positive things that you might have experienced as well. So it's not always a negative thing, but the truth of the matter is that a lot of us do carry around money wounds that we really need to dive into and really need to dig into. So ask yourself, what past experiences with money have affected how you manage your money today? Was your family always fighting about money? How did that affect you today? Were you always being told there wasn't enough? How do you think that might affect you today? How is that affecting the way that you manage money with your partner? The truth is, a lot of us might have internalized the stress that our parents felt about money, or some children even blame themselves. According to Honda, the author of that book, he says that we should really revisit those early experiences. So by asking yourself those questions, you are doing that because we need to discover those money wounds and how to actually begin to heal from them. He recommends, and so do we, that you actually journal out these experiences, which is why we want you to write them all out. Also, if it's something that's a little bit more traumatic, or might have really affected you in a negative way, like perhaps you now have a overspending problem or even a gambling problem, or you're hiding certain things from your partner like credit card debt and you're ashamed to talk about it, or you're ashamed to bring it up, then we also recommend definitely talking to a therapist or a professional mental health coach to really walk you through that. But if it's something that's a little bit more, I'd say, lighter, like you are just struggling just with your budgeting and your management and you feel overwhelmed about money, then definitely work with a financial coach. We have certified financial planners on the Paper and Coin team that can really help you walk through some of those hurdles and roadblocks and help to unlock some of your potential when it comes to reaching for financial success. So again, ask yourself, what are some of these past experiences and how have they shaped and affected the way that you manage and think about money in your present life now? One of the biggest issues that we deal with as we're tackling our past and the way that it manifests into our present is scarcity mentality. You guys, this is one of the biggest things that I know so many people struggle with. And we want to talk about it because it's so important to tackle this negative mindset head on so that you can set your future up for success when it comes to money. So what is scarcity mentality? Scarcity mentality is when you see money and other resources basically as a zero-sum game, meaning that more for me or more for others means less for me. So, for example, if there is a job market and you're applying to be a marketing coordinator, let's say, if you are seeing things with a scarcity mentality, you're thinking that, well, there's only a few jobs to go around, and if I don't get one of them, that's going to be it. And though there is some truth to that, the truth of the matter is there's always going to be new marketing jobs coming up. Someone's going to quit their job and that opening will come up, or a new company will start and they're going to need a marketing coordinator. So the same thing goes for money. At Paper and Coin, we actually tackle scarcity mentality by believing that a rising tide lifts all boats. So what that means is that as more and more people are making more money and being better and smarter about managing their money in a strong and positive way, then that actually creates more money within the economy. And more money in the economy means more jobs for people. More jobs for people means more money for everyone. And as more people make more money, the more they'll invest, which will invest back into the companies. And so now that, as you're seeing, the tide is lifting. And as the tide lifts, more and more people can benefit from it. So it's not that, there's only one pie and I got to get my slice of the pie before anyone else does. It's the pie is big, and the more and more people that are involved, the bigger the pie will get. And the bigger even your potential slice of the pie will get. So scarcity mentality, though it is a real thing and it is something that so many people struggle with, it's not a productive approach. It's not a productive mindset when it comes to thinking about money, because then you're always approaching money from a place of lack, a place of fear, rather than a place of abundance and a place of productivity and a place of generosity and growth and multiplication. So if you feel like there's never enough, there's always too many expenses, something's always coming up, or maybe you are really scared to spend money, maybe you are worried about where your next job is going to come from, then you probably have scarcity mentality. And you know what? The good thing is, or the good news is, that a lot of people struggle with this. So you're not alone. But But understand that a rising tide lifts all boats. And so you don't have to struggle with scarcity mentality.